Immune response. An immune response is the process of antibody formation as a result of the presence of antigens or pathogens. Recall, an antigen is usually a protein substance that is present on the plasma membrane of a cell. Now, the presence of a foreign antigen stimulates the body to produce antibodies. An antibody is a chemical substance, usually protein, which is formed in the blood when an antigen is introduced into the tissue of an animal. An antibody has a chemical composition which is complementary to the antigen against which it reacts. So each antibody is produced to specifically react with or combine with a particular antigen. So this illustration here shows what happens in an immune response. The introduction of pathogens or any other foreign antigen into the body is recognized by a special type of white blood cell. There's a special type of white blood cell that recognizes foreign antigens. Then the white blood cell stimulates the lymphocytes to multiply and increase in number, and also stimulates the lymphocytes to produce antibodies that are specific to that particular pathogen or antigen that has been recognized. The lymphocytes release the antibodies, which then attack and neutralize or destroy the antigen or the cells that bear the antigen. So basically that is how the immune response comes about. Introduction of a pathogen or a foreign antigen, identification by a particular white blood cell, which then sets in motion the response, in which there is multiplication of lymphocytes. These are white blood cells that produce antibodies, and they produce specific antibodies that will then attack and destroy the specific antigen. So the presence of antibodies for a particular or against a particular antigen brings about an immunity. So immunity is the ability of a body to resist an invasion by pathogens. The ability of the body to resist an attack by pathogen is known as immunity. There are two types of immunity. Natural immunity. This is one which is inborn. It is inherited. It is genetically determined, present from birth, and can be passed on from the parent to the offspring. And then there is acquired immunity, one that comes about after birth. It is not present at the beginning, but because of exposure to environmental factors, the organism is able to acquire the immunity. Now, the acquisition can come about either naturally or artificially. Naturally, when a person, for example, is attacked by a particular disease, by natural means, not deliberately, somebody falls sick. So he's attacked by diseases like smallpox or chickenpox, measles, mumps, or polio. And when such a person recovers from the attack, then they develop resistance or immunity to any subsequent infections from the same disease. So what happens is that when the body is exposed to the pathogens that cause the disease, white blood cells respond by producing antibodies, and these antibodies fight off the infection, and this is what brings about the recovery. Now, some of the white blood cells that produce the specific antibodies remain in the circulatory system for life, so that whenever there is a subsequent infection, whenever the foreign pathogens, the pathogens that cause, for example, chickenpox, should invade the body, then they respond very quickly by producing antibodies to destroy the pathogens. So this is how the immunity is naturally acquired without any deliberate effort on the part of the person. A second way of acquiring immunity is by artificial means. This is through the agency or action of man. Now, artificially acquired immunity can come about in two ways. One, it may be actively acquired, and this is normally done through vaccination. Now, a vaccine is a preparation that contains either dead pathogens or weakened pathogens, or portions of the pathogen cells that contain the active antigen. So the vaccine is then injected into the body, the process known as vaccination. The vaccine will not cause the disease because the pathogen is either dead, is weakened, or it's only a portion of it that has been injected. Once in the body, then the dead pathogen is recognized by the white blood cells, which then respond by producing antibodies against it. These antibodies would usually remain in the bloodstream for a long period of time or even for life, depending on the nature of the pathogen, and thereby providing immunity. Now, it is known as actively acquired immunity because the body is stimulated to produce its own antibodies. Vaccine is normally administered either through oral inoculation, through the mouth, or the vaccine can be injected directly into the bloodstream. Either way, the vaccine that contains the dead pathogens will then stimulate the body to produce its own antibodies, which will then protect the body against any invasion by the specific pathogen. Now, a second way of artificially acquiring immunity is by passive means. By passive means. Passive in the sense that the body is not stimulated to produce its own antibodies, but rather antibodies are introduced into the body. Antibodies already found by another body or another animal are introduced into the body. This occurs in two ways. One, from mother to the fetus. During pregnancy, certain antibodies can pass across the placenta from the mother to the fetus, thereby conferring upon the fetus when it is born some immunity. Secondly, during breastfeeding, especially the first milk, known as colostrum, is rich in antibodies. So the baby is able to acquire these antibodies and get protection or immunity, even though temporary, because antibodies, being proteins, have a limited lifespan. So from mother to the fetus or mother to the baby, antibodies are passed naturally. The other passive way of acquiring immunity artificially is through injection of serum that contains antibodies. Now, serum is plasma from which fibrinogen has been removed. Now, using certain animals such as the horse, specific antiserum can be prepared. The horse may be injected with a pathogen that causes a disease, for example, like rabies. The horse produces antibodies, then the horse's plasma is collected, fibrinogen is removed so that the serum that remains will contain the antibodies against rabies. So this antiserum can be injected into a person to specifically protect them from rabies or even tetanus. So again, this is a passive form of immunity because these antibodies have a limited lifespan and they will be destroyed in due course of time. But the advantage in the injection of antiserum is that it provides immediate protection. It provides immediate immunity. And this is important when during an emergency, for example, if it is a snake bite, what is injected, what is administered is antivenom serum so as to neutralize the toxins that may be present in the snake's venom.